So it comes on the heels of brand new Fox News polls that reveal Americans are hurting financially. Only 25% saying they're currently satisfied with the U.S. economy.
And part of that is because of inflation. We also went through this big shutdown. More than 50% of Americans say that inflation is completely out of control.
Yep. So who's to blame? Our polling shows 46% of Americans think they've been hurt by President Trump's economic policies.
All right, folks. So Donald Trump's economy is so objectively terrible that even Fox News hosts, MAGA Fox News hosts in some cases, have been forced to relentlessly hammer him about this, however reluctantly. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to show you here, kind of an economic update, but I always love to refer to Fox, especially when they're forced to confront a politically inconvenient reality on air. In the clip you just heard, that was Ainsley Earhardt and Brian Kilmeade and Lawrence Jones of Fox and Friends. These are MAGA Fox News hosts. Now you have some from Fox and Business hosts who are kind of MAGA, like this lady, Dagan, I think is her name, and just brutal economic news for Trump, which could spell disaster in the next election.
The unemployment rate going up to what is a cycle high of 4.44% if you look at the full number. And it's not good news, because if you look at, these are people entering the workforce, yeah, not so much. The way that the Bureau of Labor Statistics calculates this, they interpret the numbers as follows. They use a Census Bureau population estimate to inflate the survey sample size to the U.S. population size. So the number that they're using, the census number, they're using for population growth is based on a comprehensive population update that was done at the end of last year. Chris Lowe, the economist, adjusted for known border crossings and deportations now under President Trump. The actual numbers likely show that half that number that was used in this calculation is reflected half that much labor force growth. So cut that labor force growth number in half, that is near zero employment growth in the household survey used to calculate the unemployment rate. So the unemployment rate an unemployment rate that is still 4.44%, that is the ratio in the sample. So it's like, if you adjust the calculation, it's not because of good news.
So that was a lot of wonky shit, so as to say that the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which, by the way, we were assured that we wouldn't get any for October, right? But they made a new report for September. What's interesting is there was a downward revision, a really brutal one, for August, and it's like the second or third month of net job loss. Unemployment rates are ticking upward. They tried to calculate this in a way which might make it seem favorable to Trump, but even this Fox News, and you can see she's just visibly dying inside, like they all are. You can see them looking away. Actually, the reality is pretty terrible for Trump. His job numbers are atrocious compared to President Biden's. The unemployment rate is ticking upwards, historically low, or rather historically low for decades, I should say. It's the lowest unemployment rate in decades under President Biden. And under Trump, it's actually increasing. And she's reacting like somebody kicked her puppy, right? But wait, there's more.
All right, a new study revealing child care costs are surging past rent in many top U.S. cities. The steep price tag forcing some parents to ditch careers in order to stay at home, 1950s style. Fox Business's Lydia Hu's live from the New York newsroom. What can you tell us, Lydia?
Hi there, Jillian. This is according to a study by Lending Tree. They say families with 2 kids in 85 out of the top 100 metro areas pay on average 31% more for childcare than they do for rent. The biggest disparity out of this report is seen in Omaha, Nebraska, where childcare costs were more than double the cost of a 2-bedroom apartment. Milwaukee and Buffalo also coming in second and third here. So
the reason I'm providing these clips, I want to show you this. It's not simply by one macroeconomic metric or one major economic metric. It's across a wide variety. and again, coming from Fox News, that Trump's economy is wildly unaffordable, which is why he's desperate to try to reclaim the mantle of affordability, while simultaneously saying that people should stop bitching about affordability because I've beaten the unaffordability. Affordability is great, right? So he's making the same mistake that President Biden and the Democrats made, trying to tell Americans that their perceptions of the economy are wrong. I would argue it's actually worse than what Biden was doing, because at the very least, Biden could point to excellent macroeconomic metrics, right? Like a declining inflation rate, whereas it's ticking up under Trump. It's actually reversing and going in the opposite direction. A robust jobs report month after month after month, a much lower, relatively lower unemployment rate than what Trump had. Trump can't even point to these things. And he's with rage and frustration in ways, again, even Biden, at least, they tried to do a persuasion campaign. Like, hey, guys, the conventional metrics by which we look and evaluate an economy, this is a pretty good one, right? Trump has less evidence in his favor, and he's much more pissed off. There's a sense of raw entitlement there, like, how dare you? But even Fox News is like, it doesn't matter if it's childcare, it doesn't matter if it's unemployment, affordability, the cost of things. Like, your shit is terrible. We're actually going to switch to CNN for just a minute, because they're breaking down more of the latest jobs report.
Bad news, though, is look at this. The unemployment rate going to 4.4% unexpectedly. It was supposed to stay at 4.3. It did not. And as you noted, this is a new 4-year high. Now, when we look at the pace of job growth over the past year or so, you can see that September was a big rebound. The other thing that this chart shows is that August was revised negative. It was positive 22,000, and now it is slightly negative. And the other thing that really stands
Negative 4,000. Trump presided over a net job loss of 4,000 jobs. And again, not for the first time. I mean, this is staggering, folks, staggering. Look at that chart. And people talk about, what about job revisions under Biden? There are job revisions upward and downward all the time. But even when you factor in COVID recovery, even when you factor in the downward revisions under Biden, Biden's monthly job creations blows Trump out of the fucking water. It's not even close. Trump is just absolutely screwing up here. Not good.
Out here is now we have 2 of the last 4 months, right? June and August, where the U.S. economy actually lost jobs. 2 out of the last 4 months that we have data on. That's after a stretch of almost 4 years of uninterrupted job growth. So this clearly speaks to the...
Those 4 years under Biden. Again, say whatever you want. Donald Trump is objectively inferior to Biden by far. Not even close. They're not neck and neck. Not even close on job creation.
Softness in the job market. The other thing I want to look at here is wages against prices, because we know there's this affordability crisis where a lot of people feel like they just can't keep up with the high prices. In this chart, the red line shows the rate of inflation. And when you go back to 2023, the red line was above the blue line, which is wages. And so that's why people felt like they could not catch up. Now, the good news is that in the latest month, wages were up by 3.7%. That is ahead of the inflation rate, which was 3%. But I also think that what stands out here, John, is that the gap here is narrowing, right? And so prices are still high. They're still going up at a fast pace, but wages are not going up by nearly as much. So again, wages were exceeding inflation under President Biden, at least for the last year. And now under Trump, it's starting to taper out again. It's starting to taper out. They're starting to converge again because of tariffs. And not because of COVID, because of tariffs. Trump can't even point to that. Trump can't point to this, once in a century pandemic. It is 100% his fault. Here's another vector. So one of the things that Trump's, speaking of tariffs, one of his stated rationale for tariffs was it would repatriate manufacturing jobs. It would revitalize our manufacturing center. Except it's not. We've been hemorrhaging manufacturing jobs under Trump. We had a manufacturing boom under Biden. Biden, again, objectively far superior to Trump. Look at the fucking graph. The Federal Reserve graph. It is just plummeting under Trump. New data reveals that transportation and warehousing industry has lost 34,600 jobs since Trump took office. Not good. Not good. Manufacturing, warehousing, it doesn't matter. They are plummeting under Trump.
And he promised to get these things back. There's more. There's more. And I'll say this. Actually, there's so many more clips I could show you, but actually I want to close, given that we're approaching Thanksgiving, with another Fox News clip that is Thanksgiving themed and puts things in perspective with a tangible holiday.
Now remember, if you do want to do another protein like beef, the price is still up. It's about, I believe, 5 times the price that it was last year. So just keep that in mind. Maybe you're hitting the grocery store this weekend. Turkey is probably your best bet. Just stick to the one. I'll send it back to you guys.
You know what?
Up 5 times compared to where it was under President Biden. This is terrible shit. No wonder Trump is in serious trouble. And again, his economy is so objectively terrible that even Fox has to report on it, however reluctantly. Trump's going to hate this. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.